Morning, everybody. Welcome to our monthly edition of our Signworld webinar. We've got several Signworld owners that have donated part of their day to spend time and share with you ideas. We'll first give them a chance to give some introductions so you know who they are and kind of the scope of their business. And then we'll go around the room and let each of you have a chance to ask a question. As we have more time, we'll either take up pop-up questions or go around the room again, depending on what it is. During the webinar, Shrey's got a couple of slideshows that she can show in the background that have no audio, but will kind of paint a more of a picture, a visual picture of who we are and what we do. But let's go ahead and give introductions here. Let's see. I'm not sure if Helen or Des has been around longer, so let's start with Helen. Helen, go ahead and tell us about you and your business.
Sure. My name is Helen McKinstry. I'm located in Austin, Texas. We've got Sabre Sign Solutions here in the greater Austin area. Been in business about 7.5 years. So we opened in 2017. We are currently in 3,400 square feet, give or take. So we've moved once, and the facility we're in is 3,400 square feet. I've got four full-time employees and one part-time employee. Biggest gosh, we've got a couple of our most we've got several customers that have become favorites, and amongst our largest the last 2 or 3 years, one is a hotel. Actually, I think it's kind of a timeshare, but it's a Club Wyndham in downtown Austin. And so we just constantly have probably about 8 different projects, it feels like, at once we're doing for them, ranging from various signs and window graphics and elevator graphics around their facility. And then we have another large customer that run these 24-hour emergency room, free standalone emergency room facilities. They've got 6 or 7, I'm losing track, in the greater Austin area. And they've got two down in the Houston area where we own the contract, but we partner with other Signworld partners down there. And it seems like they're opening a new facility every year or 2. And so they're giving us all of their exterior signage and a bunch of their interior signage. So, we love those long-term relationships. And we're shooting for probably about 700,000. I actually need to pull the numbers again. I pull them about once a month, but we're shooting for around 700,000 this year in sales.
And what was your background before Signworld?
I retired from IBM, which I still hate saying because it makes it sound like I'm older than I feel. But I retired from IBM. I was with IBM for over 30 years, and I was an executive. When I retired, I was in the consulting end of the business, but probably spent the bulk of my career in the software engineering, labs, if you will, and then was with IBM Consulting for about the last 6-7 years of my career.
Good. Des, how about you?
Yeah, Des Lappin. The name of the business is Carolina Custom Signs and Graphics. That's a lot to say. We're in Greensboro, North Carolina. So we do Greensboro, High Point, Winston-Salem is kind of our primary area, but we cover a lot of North Carolina and into Virginia. Been in business since 2016, since September 2016. So I guess we just completed our 8th year. We have, I'm inside of a 6,000 square foot facility that we bought last year in October. And we just now acquired the building next door, which is another 1,800 square feet. So we've got kind of a compound now that's nicely fenced in, and 2 buildings. It should work out really well. We've got about 14 employees. The 2024 will come in around 2.2 million. We're at a run rate now of about 3 million. We expect to do an excess of 3 million in 2025. Biggest customer project is one of the items here. We do have one customer that's probably worth talking about. They probably do with us 300,000 or 400,000 a year. It is a company called Safeguard. They do safety shoes, and they go about their selling very differently. They fully deck out tractor trailers with their newest brands of shoe models. They've got about roughly 100 trucks around the country, and we do full wrap. We pull up the old, put on the new, wherever they need it done. So we have partnerships all over with some of our Signworld companies all over the country. So they're about our biggest. We're not really a big wrap company. We do mainly outdoor signage, electrical outdoor stuff. But this is a great fit for us, and it's working out well for them. So my background, before this, I owned a printing business that did labels, cartons, and inserts, and we did it strictly for the pharmaceutical industry. So I worked with all the pharma companies pretty much in the country over the course of 30 or so years. I exited as an owner like in early 2000, and I stayed on as a GM. So this all feels very similar to that. So yeah.
Very good. Steve Cap, how about you?
Good morning, or I guess it's now afternoon here. My name is Steve Cap. I'm the owner of Denver Signs and Graphics. We're in the south part of the Denver metro area, about 35 minutes south of Denver. We're actually going on 7 years in business, which I'm kind of surprised we've hung in there that long, but we're still doing good stuff and keep working. We just moved to a newer facility here. So we're just a little under 5,000 square feet now, have 4 employees, and we're projecting to do about what we did last year, which was about 700,000. We're kind of seeing some impacts though from some of the national customers that we have. Our biggest customers are Mohawk Industries, and we acquired a new national customer called Migrant Glass. They have several different facilities through the Western U.S. and we're now an agent with CBRE. They're the real estate property management kind of company. So we're doing some things there, and then we're adding business into the GSA schedule. So hopefully GSA kicks in and we make our target. Recently completed projects. We did 2 really big projects that we booked in December of last year and finished into this year. One was for a company called Elite Fitness. They opened up a new facility here. We put in 15 LED signs in their facility. It was pretty spectacular install that we did over there. And then we did a car dealership up in Loveland, Colorado. It's a repeat customer for us. We did their dealership down here in Highlands Ranch, and then they moved up to open up a second space. And so we're just wrapping up some of the work that's being done up that facility. Background, I started in the high tech field as an engineer, as a manager, director of IT, and I guess the age-old problem of forced retirement kind of hit me. So I looked for a new career, and I came here.
What company were you with?
Cisco Systems.
So my story, I'm Jack Horner. I joined Signworld in 1995 as a Signworld operation last century. I started in 1,100 square feet with 1 employee, ended up 10 years later in 5,000 square feet, staff of 11, doing about 1.3 million in revenue. Sold that operation to join Ken Ken, our founder and former president, in kind of a partnership organization, learning his end of the business, finished buying him out in 2014, became the president of Signworld. I've been the president for the last 10 years until this March, when I turned the business over to Dan and Jean, my son and daughter, and they're now the presidents of Signworld. And when I see my kids, I say, "Hi, boss." I'm not leaving, I'm still sticking around, but giving them a chance to take over the reins over the next generation of Signworld. So when I answer questions today, if it goes to my experience running an operation, I might speak from that perspective. If it goes to training and policy, I might speak from that. If it goes more of a generalization of what Signworld Owners are doing, I might speak from that. that background. So why don't we go ahead and get started with the questions and give each a chance to ask. We can ask just one question. We'll try and come back around and give a chance for more, but just one at a time, and then let each of the owners answer. Jonathan, you were here first. Why don't you go ahead and ask your question? You're on mute, Jonathan.
Just realized I was on mute. Sorry about that. Hey, hello, everyone. I guess my question for the panel members would be, now that you've been in business for several years, what would you say is the machine that turns, I guess, out the most product for your business that you lean on the most?
Well, and where's the majority of your business coming? Is it coming from the printer that you have in-house, or are you doing more subcontractor work? What's the biggest majority of the mix of projects you're doing?
You know, it's probably about 50-50 in-house versus subbed out. So to clarify what that means in my world, we do not have our own bucket trucks due to space and storage constraints. And so we sub out the installation of anything that requires a bucket truck to install, and we sub out the fabrication of electric or illuminated signs. In-house, we have saw, panel saw, we have our printer, our laminator, our plotter. And so, anything that we can do in-house, we will. It's about a 50-50 split, roughly. Of course, it varies a little bit month to month, but it's roughly 50-50. In-house work is more profitable, but the work that I sub out tends to be higher dollar value at lower profitability. And I deliberately try to balance those as kind of portfolio management, if you will, for my business.
Very good. Des, how about you?
Sure, I could say we have any one particular piece of equipment that we generate more, dollars out of. We're always lately we've been buying new equipment and replacing the old. So I think we're kind of the same. We do a lot of we do as much in-house as we can, but we have limited capabilities, and we're forever trying to expand those. I think in a couple of years we'll be making our own channel letters and making our own big cabinet signs. We got to get UL licensed and certified, whatever. That hasn't been done yet, but we're probably 50-50 as well. And I'm not sure I could say from a profitability standpoint, which is more profitable. I think they're blended to be about the same for us. When we start making the channel letters and the bigger stuff in-house, I would say that's where we're going to probably find our biggest, most profitable area of business. We do like, as limited as we do with it, we do like commercial wraps, we like fleets. We find that we can make good margins here in this area for whatever reason. I interact with a lot of other Signworld people, and we have our mastermind meeting group, and some markets, you're paying $20 a square foot, and the other it's 16, the other it's 11. I mean, it's just all over the place. We happen to be in a market where we can charge a good premium and get a good margin. So yeah.
Steve, your thoughts?
Well, I'd say we're kind of a blended operation too. We actually still have our original vinyl printer, and we still use it and treat it nice and maintain it well, and it keeps right chugging right along. But we've also added a UV printer, and we do direct to substrate kind of projects, and we've got CNC and other kind of cutters, laser, and so we do our own dimensional letters now, and we do ADA signs. We manufacture those here, and we've kind of generated a reputation in the construction industry that we do pretty good planning for ADA signage, detailed layouts and signage design and things like that. And so we keep getting bigger projects for those kinds of things. But our big customers, they occasionally ask us for, you know, big outdoor letter signs that we do either with acrylic or metal. And we have a bucket truck. We've acquired that too, and do most of our own installations within certain height limits. But anything that goes beyond that, we've got a network of Signworld guys near us that love to rappel off buildings where I just don't have the guts for that. So that's where my limit is.
Tony Schnurr, what's your question?
I'm sorry?
I was asking Tony Schnurr what his question was.
Yeah, I'm curious if you recall at startup, when you look at the investment, when did you feel like you had crossed into a positive cash flow environment, considering the investment, and then building out your business and generating income?
Ellen, when did you feel you were on a month-to-month basis a steady cash positive?
So the first month that we hit cash flow positive was about 14 months in, but my model that I followed was a little bit different than standard. Longer story, but I hired 2 employees day one for very specific reasons. So of course my costs were higher in the beginning than sort of the standard model of starting with 1 sign maker, right? So I hit cash flow positive in a given month in month 14, but then, you know, business does this, right? So month 15, I was underwater again. I think month 17, we were cash flow positive. So you're going to see a little bit of that as you grow over time. From an overall investment perspective, I don't know if I'd have to actually go back and take a look at when do I think I got back my entire, you know, where, you know, what month did I hit back my entire investment? But I always like to look at, I wanted to be sure I was making smart investments in the future, right? So, you know, one of the things you'll hear from Signworld is really be looking at, you know, don't be afraid to hire that next employee. You don't want to be foolish about it, but don't be too shy about it. You know, really look at when can you buy that next piece of equipment, you know, so that you can improve the profitability and your ability to turn around jobs more quickly. So I started investing in some of those things before I necessarily had gotten back all of my initial investment, but it was all part of growing the business.
So
Thank you.
Helen, if you hired a general manager so you could have more time with your kids that were still at home, and if you took out that monies that you paid that general manager, what month do you think you would have hit the cash positive? What would it shorten it from 14 months to 6 months, 7 months, somewhere in there?
It might have been under a year, but there was also, so you gave me some great advice, Jack, when I was running this scenario past you, right? And you said, because I said, hey, it's going to be my decision, but am I being silly to think about hiring somebody, you know, an extra person? And you threw me a challenge, which was spot on, which was, how are you going to use that person to grow your revenue faster? So clearly you're taking on a lot more cost sooner than your business plan might otherwise have said. What are you going to do to help that person generate revenue faster? So I would have hit cash flow positive probably a little sooner, but I don't know that my revenue would have grown quite as fast if I hadn't hired that person day one either. So that's a little bit of a hard question to answer.
Very good. Des, how about you? Cash positive.
So I'm actually looking at my numbers here. It looks like so we opened in September. So we were about 14 months before we started hitting a cash flow positive. And part of that was we opened in 2016. At that time, Jack, you might remember, like the web marketing wasn't quite, you know, the thing that it is now. And so we were at that point, I remember the training was mostly focused around doing a lot of blogs and trying to create traffic for your website. And then we were introduced to some really good web marketing companies through our Signworld network. And once we got that going, which I waited about 8 months before we started, which was a tragic mistake by me. But once we got that and it started, you know, started to work for us, you know, it was just, we just took off from there.
Very good. And Steve?
We were cash positive in the 4th month of business. Then we, for either good or bad reasons, I'd like to say it was good reasons. We acquired another company 2 months later, the guy that was retiring, and that's what got us into the ADA market. Um, so we were, because of the investment, we were paying on that a little bit and moving all the assets of that business. So it was another, maybe about 9 months before we became cash flow positive again. So we took a slight dip and then, became cash flow positive again.
Our averages show, and we do document getting surveys from owners, our average is about 6 months for average cash positive. Wade Russell, what's your question? All right, and if you can also, let me go back a second. Jonathan, I know you're in Austin. Tony Schnur, where are you located?
I am north of Houston in Montgomery, Texas.
That's right, okay. And Wade Russell, where are you at?
I am near Seattle. I'm west of Seattle, yeah, more rural area. Thank you all for sharing your experiences with us and taking this time. My question is, if you could go back to year one, what were your biggest challenges?
Okay. Steve, why don't we start with you?
Well, having grown up in the corporate world, where the corporation takes care of all the overhead part of the business, like payroll and insurance and things like that. Biggest shock was now having to take care of that myself. It was kind of empowering at the same time. It was a bit overwhelming at first, but once I got down to a routine and things kind of settled down, then that was the big mountain climb for me.
Okay. Des?
I said earlier, like our not picking up on the web marketing sooner was a big mistake. We could have been generating revenue a lot faster. I was going to networking meetings and writing blogs, and it just wasn't enough. And we finally got serious with that. It was a big investment at that time. Now it seems like it's a tiny investment based on what it delivers. And the other one was for me. I probably wouldn't have hired a sign maker right out of the gate. I don't think I got enough value out of the person that I hired. Some of that's probably me, but I think had I just built some type of a small network of outsourced sign companies, I would have probably been just fine, and not have to deal with that expense until later.
Ellen, your thoughts? Do-overs, knowing what you know.
There's not a lot of do-overs necessarily in year one. I remember one thing, and it's kind of trivial in the big scheme of things, but we realized we needed to buy a pickup truck, right? The day I had to borrow my sign maker's mother's van, I realized this was not going to work. So went out and bought a pickup truck, and I bought it using the criteria I'd always used as a personal consumer, right? I was thinking about paying cash for the truck, and I went and bought what's the quality that's going to last me forever. I bought a Toyota Tundra, and by the way, that is a wonderful truck, but I did realize from a cash flow perspective, a loan made a whole lot more sense given where I was with my business. So got a loan for the truck. That was smart. But I could have bought a secondhand F-150 that was in good shape, and that would have been a smarter financial decision, I realized after the fact. So I bought a truck like a consumer and realized after the fact that I wasn't thinking like a business owner when I bought it. Again, great truck, wonderful truck, but kind of overkill for what I needed to spend at that time. The other one is something that Des mentioned, but I'll add a little caveat to it. So we opened up mid-year. And so as we were coming near the end of the calendar year, I was kind of evaluating where was our business coming from. And I realized, 80% of the business was based on personal referrals that I was, personal networking that I was doing. And I realized very quickly that was not going to scale. That was not going to scale. At some point, I was going to hit the limits of who I can network with. So I went out and did some research and found a digital marketing company, was on board and had them working with for me. Phones started ringing off the hook. right? And so business did pick up dramatically. However, that said, if I had hired them day one, I think we would have been overwhelmed. Me personally, if I were to go back and do it a little differently, if I opened in June, I would have focused on June, July, August, or even sooner, getting my structure in place, knowing my pricing structure, knowing what our processes were, kind of getting that down, and then maybe had them on board in September, October, right? Because I think if I had had them on board in June, I wouldn't even have known how to respond to the volume that was coming in. So I think a few months of getting your ducks in a row, and then getting a good, strong digital marketing company working with you, is a great thing for getting your business going.
Very good. Carl Katz, how about you? Where are you from and what's your question? You're on mute right now, Carl.
Sorry about that.
I'm sorry, but I'm from Orange County. I've just started my discovery this week, so I'm learning quite a bit. Thank you all for your time. One thing that was apparent to me right away in my initial conversation was with Jeannie was that this is a very fragmented market with a lot of participants. As you landed in your territory, how did you start to differentiate yourself from all the other sign makers out there?
Good question. Steve Cap, plenty of sign companies in Denver. Why do they want to buy from you?
Well, I was just prettier.
Haven't heard that one before on the webinar. Good.
No, the way we kind of tried to differentiate ourselves is a little bit of philosophy and a little bit of approach. Philosophy was that if people are calling you, they're interested in spending money. They've already made that decision when they're calling you. And the question is whether you're going to be able to convince them to monetize that call into something that you can deliver on. And our approach is that we don't try and sell anything. What we try to do is understand the customer's requirements and be more consultative to them and understand their requirements and give them options for what they're looking for in a sign, and give them advice, steer them away from things that sometimes customers come to you and they come up with some really harebrained ideas, and you want to kind of say, well, that's probably not a good idea, or this is probably something better that would achieve your goals and maybe cost you a little less. I'd rather walk into a situation with a customer where I'm being honest and forthright and delivering to them what they want. And although, you always want to try and upsell where you can, but you don't want to be a used car salesman either. So I try to avoid that. I try to be, again, a consultant to them, and that usually results in good relationships with customers, and they usually make the buying sign real quick after that.
Helen, were you concerned with competition when you joined?
I was, right? So I mean, I looked around, there's a bunch of sign companies here in Austin. I remembered you guys giving us advice about that, and go talk to them. And I thought that was, I thought that was, now that's not good advice. And it was actually fantastic advice. But I think what differentiates us is answer the phone, return the phone call, and be responsive. I will tell you that the combination of those right away are going to be a differentiator. I will tell you that a typical call that we get where we're having a conversation with a client is, hey, I called 5 sign companies. Only 2 of them even called me back. And you're the only one that spent time with me, asking me really good questions and trying to understand what it is that I want. I've just spent 20 minutes on the phone with you, and I haven't even seen your price, and I've decided you're the company I want to work with. So it's going to be answer the phone and return the phone call, and be responsive, right? That's all wrapped up in one. That is a huge differentiator in this market. There are a lot of sign companies out there, but not all of them are going to respond. And the second is, for us, we believe in the consultative approach, which, was just mentioned. And quite frankly, in our experience, when somebody calls up and says, I don't really want to talk to you, I just want a price, those in our experience also end up being the people who are just looking for the cheapest price and really don't care. And they don't end up being our favorite client. And so we actually are targeting those customers who do want to have that conversation. They tend to be more focused on the quality of what they're going to be getting and the quality of the relationship than on the last nickel. And so they end up being better customers for us.
Des, your thoughts?
When this question came up, I wrote down two things in my notepad here. I said, return phone calls, exclamation point, and just be ultra responsive with quotes and follow-up. And Helen said those exact things. We got that from Signworld at the time in 2016. But I also did a little due diligence and called around to the local sign shops to see how they responded. And they weren't returning calls. They weren't particularly professional. So we're like, I thought this was really going to be great for us. We have a market that's complacent, that's dysfunctional. That sounds like a perfect opportunity, and it was. It just was a matter of us getting out and exploiting it. Now we've grown quite a bit in the last 8 years, while I see those same competitors stagnant because they're doing the same things. So just basics.
Sign making is just like any trade, like plumbers, electricians, drywallers, anybody that's in trade. And most of those companies are owned by former employees of a company who spent years, hey boss, I'm doing this job, and when I'm done, I'll let you know and you tell me what to do next. They're single task focused. Now owning their own business, trying to juggle 20, 50, 100 projects, it's chaos. So what we do is the opposite. We go to bring corporate executives in who understand customer interaction, understand multitasking, understand scheduling, understand hiring staff and delegating. We're business people running a sign company, competing against sign makers trying to run a business. A whole different scenario. Who was it that asked that question? Because I was calling on Carl Katz and I think somebody else jumped in there. Was that Kyle? Was that you?
I jumped in by mistake.
No problem, no problem. Just want to catch up so I can get back to Carl. Carl, just before we start your question, Sheree has several slideshows. She's going to go ahead and start showing. There's no audio to them, so we'll keep talking. The first one goes to showing some of our locations inside now. So you can see how they're each put their own stamp to the business. They're similar, but they built their own culture, unlike a franchise. The second one goes to what is a sign, not only to what we make in-house, what do we outsource initially, and then some signs that you might not even think of as a sign, showing the breadth of what we do. The third slideshow goes to some of our wall of fame, showing while you start off with bigger projects, you end up with or smaller projects, you end up with bigger customers later. So Sheree, go ahead and Carl Katz, what's your question?
I'm sorry, that was my question about competition.
So
Yeah,
I
so
had asked,
Jack, just to clarify, Kyle started to jump in, but then but it went back to
okay.
Kyle.
Okay.
So Kyle needs to go next.
Okay, Kyle, thank you.
So this is Kyle McNeil. I'm located outside of Charlotte.
Okay.
And my question is that in the discussions I've heard, that there seems to be a pretty significant range from 10 to 30 as far in the net margins. I'm just trying to understand what you think the key factors for being on the kind of plus 20 side versus the teen side tend to be across the different Signworld businesses.
Okay. Helen?
Well, so from my perspective and where I sit, there's definitely, so you're talking net margin. So for gross margins, there's definitely a big differentiator for me for in-house versus vended out work. And so again, I try to manage a portfolio, right? I can grow my business, in more directions and accomplish more work by having a combination of, subcontractors and vetted out work with in-house work. In-house is definitely more profitable, which is why over time you want to be bringing more work in-house with more machines, more capabilities. As far as net margin, there are a lot of things. So I just talked about gross margin, right? Individual projects vended out in-house. Net margin is going to include things like your rent, your marketing, cost of hiring employees, your payroll, right? So that will also vary a bit based on the market that you're in. I know that I am often frustrated by the cost of rent in the market that I'm in, and I just think I'm paying way too much. And I always have this conversation with my landlord when our lease comes up for renewal. We negotiate a lot because I think I'm paying more than I want to. So, you know, those kinds of things, how much you're spending in marketing, of course, is going to hit your net margin, but you've already heard of the importance of the marketing, right? So, you know, it is going to vary market to market. You know, what rent runs, how much it's going to cost you to be hiring your employees, and then what profit you can get on specific profits, specific product lines will vary from market to market as well.
Steve Cap, your thoughts?
Well, you know, I think you know, Helen kind of hits it right on the head there. You know, the other thing I kind of find too is you know, there are things that can come your way that can nickel and dime you to death. And you know, subscriptions for like software and stuff like that, you know, make sure that that you're getting some return on whatever you're doing with it. But you know, sometimes you have to spend a little bit of money for like the, you know, the scans for viruses and things like that. And believe me, anymore in today's networking world, you know, you got to take care of your business as well. So it's not just about the operational expense, but also about, you know, protecting the business. You know, your insurance. Don't be afraid to, you know, keep looking at different companies for getting a better deal. If somebody's offering to look at your stuff, it's probably worth your time to let them take a look at it. And you know, we're not afraid to pressure our suppliers if they're not performing. So you got to keep your pulse on the business, and you got to keep your pulse on the things that are affecting your business. And you know, when you hear about companies and stuff that are like getting hit by hurricanes and stuff like that that you do business with, you know, you got to kind of have your plan B in place as to how you're going to keep your business going when you don't have a reliable supplier that can fulfill your orders in a timely fashion because of their, you know, unfortunate effects with something like Mother Nature. So, you know, you just got to keep your pulse on the business and make adjustments. And I like to think that we're pretty aggressive about it.
Des, your thoughts? You're on mute, Des.
You're still on mute.
Des, we can't hear you. Hello, Des.
Sorry about that. I lost the whole screen and I had to get back to it.
You
And
had a great answer though, so thank you for that.
So it takes me longer to do these things. Yeah, so we talked about margins, I guess net margins, and I guess I'll just tell you, like our experience is early on in the first 4 years, I would say we were happy if we could achieve a 10% net profit at the end of the year. Now we'll be happy to do a 20% profit, a net profit. And you know, for me, I think it's just spreading out the overhead. You know, we worked a lot on our workflow to automate it. So we do a lot of things that takes a lot of people to do, where we just do it using technology to do it. I don't think our competitors are even close to us in this. We've been increasing our minimum order to now we're at $1,000. It probably needs to be more. Take away all that distraction and noise from those small orders that take you as much or more time to do a $200 job for some nice lady versus doing a a $20,000 job. You take the same amount of resource time to do both. So we just got rid of all that low end noise, and it's been very beneficial to us.
Well, the bottom line is making sure you're charging full price, not discounting. Making sure you're buying the materials at the right prices. Making sure you're accounting for time and effort. Making sure you're not making mistakes. So there's a lot of profitability items on the front end. There's a lot of profitability items on the back end of how efficient I run. So it's working to fine tune all of those. Lisa Wynn, what question do you tell us where you're from and what question you have?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you also for taking the time. I really do appreciate it. I am in the upstate of South Carolina, not far from Greenville. One of the questions that I had is how difficult do you find it to hire and retain employees?
Good question. The good news is, well, in every industry in today's world, it's hard to hire. This is not a high employee count business, and it is more of a career than it is just a job. So, Des, what's been your experience over the 7-8 years of how is it easy to hire and how is it to retain? How many have you had to let go?
Most important part of our business is the people. We just focus on getting our main focus is let's find a person with the right character. We can train them on the sign parts. So we focus on that first. We go after people if we know them through our own networks and we understand their character. Those are the most important people that for us to get. We'll pay at the market rate or above for the right talent. We have very low turnover. But when we do find that we're struggling with somebody, we try to work with them as much as we can, but also to make that decision to replace them and move on, because it's very painful to have an employee that's difficult and it's not doing good work, and you're constantly trying to up their game and it's just not getting there. That's a frustration that we try not to get too deep into. So we kind of make it short and sweet. If we're not hitting it, we're going to meet again in a month, and if we're not hitting it, then we're going to move on. So it's very, I know it sounds very callous, but it works. It's honest, and everybody kind of understands where they stand. So yeah, that's really it for us.
Ellen, your thoughts?
So I would say we saw a big cycle coming out of COVID that was quite different than the first 3 years of our operation and the last 2, right? So in general, so I think COVID is more the exception. Coming out of COVID, probably 21, 22. During that time period, we were finding it difficult to hire. We had just an incredible number of people just ghosting interviews. When we hired, we found people, we were having difficulty with, the people who were here just seemed like they didn't care. We had people who were no-shows. I probably had to let go a much higher percentage of people I had to let go of, fire in that time period than is typical. But let me put that aside, because I think that was kind of an anomaly given I'll just say the overall recovery period coming out of COVID and different things in the economy changing during that period. In general, the caliber of employees is incredibly important. It is one of your most important assets, and we do hire for attitude and aptitude. When I say aptitude, I don't mean immediate skill, right? I mean the ability to learn and pick up that skill. So for example, if I need somebody who I need to be very good on the computer and be able to be comfortable on computers and be able to pick up technology, I don't care if they have the immediate skills I need the day I hire them, but I need to be somebody who's comfortable learning those skills on a computer. If it's somebody I'm going to be having handle tools, it needs to be somebody who's not about to chop off their right hand as soon as you hand them a sharp blade, right? So that's what I mean by aptitude. We are happy to teach them and train them and grow them in the skills they need specific to our business. But their attitude and aptitude is just what's going to make them successful in this business. And so that's what we hire for. And we've been fairly successful with that, since we came out of that. And what I'm thinking is a period of anomaly. We've been out of it for 18 months, 2 years now. We've been pretty successful, with our employees, and the culture that you grow and that your employees understand about how you're maintaining your business is really important as well. So
Very good. Steve?
Well, we actually kind of took a different approach during COVID. We went out and got those government loans to keep us alive and to keep all our people employed. And I think we did a pretty good job of that. And coming out of COVID, we actually did pretty well the following year. Just trying to, we get normal attrition, and then there's we find that to try and find the guys who know what a sign is, not just some construction guy or something like that. somebody who has an aptitude to understand it, and then also to, be able to learn it, it goes a long way with us. And we're always willing to train. And we get some people who've left us and gone to other places, and then they come back and say, "Hey, you still got my position open too." So we've been kind of lucky in the sense that we haven't had to search far, because the guys that we have had here have come back when they've decided to leave us. So, uh, but there are some that you find that just don't get along with other people in your staff, and you just gotta make a tough decision from time to time, and that's part of being an owner is you got to be able to make that tough decision, do it with grace and a little bit of respect for that person, and part peacefully.
Excellent. Daniel's iPhone, can you introduce yourself and let us know where you're from?
Sure. So this is Daniel Schultz from Fort Worth, Texas. And first, yeah, I'll repeat what everyone said. Thank you guys for your time. Appreciate it. Was curious if, as you entered the printing world, coming from a corporate IT sales guy that doesn't speak printer more than having used one in my past, were there professional organizations that you used to try to, drum up business, whether it's Chamber of Commerce, the Texas Building Association? I'm assuming there's something like that. Is there anything that early on you kind of latched on to for either networking for future business or for education?
So Helen, you talked about your website. You also talked about your personal network. What else did you do to get the business started in that first year in business?
Yeah, so gosh, I guess I got a couple thoughts. One is, yeah, I mean, I couldn't spell channel letter when I started the business, right? So one is that the network of Signworld owners is amongst the best network I've found. And Jack did not pay me to say that. He didn't ask me to say that. In those first few months, I put a question out on the forum, and I had 3 people calling me, 2 people emailing me, and 6 more people responding on the forum. And so whenever I had a question and just felt like, oh, I don't have a clue, the owner network is incredibly valuable, either for answering those questions or even potentially helping you solve the problem in terms of, hey, I can build that for you. If you don't have the ability to build it, I can build it for you, or I can point you to somebody who can. Second one is I'm a big believer in, I'll use a corporate term here, in thinking about your ecosystem day one. Who are the other sign companies in your local area that you can rely on as people you can collaborate with? People who have CNC routers that you don't have, people who have a paint booth, people who will do or install channel letters. So go meet those other sign business owners, because you'll be amazed at how well it's a much more collaborative field than you might think. Yes, you will compete on some jobs, but absolutely you want to be able to collaborate with them. So other sign companies, look at who your vendors are going to be. Who are you going to, and your distributors, understand your vendors and distributors, right? So figure out who those people are early on. And feel free to call them and ask them however many dumb questions you want to, because the faster you ask dumb questions, the faster you get smart, right? I can't tell you the number of phone calls I made in the first month or 2 or 3. And I'm like, okay, I'm bidding on a channel letter sign. And I call a vendor and just say, help me through this. What do you need to know from me in order for you to give me a price? And they were fantastic. Vendor after vendor, fabricator after fabricator would walk me through what I needed to know in order to be able to put a proposal together. So your vendors, your distributors, other sign companies in the area, the Signworld forum, and then your state may even have some sort of sign association. Texas has an organization called TSA, Texas Sign Association. It's another way of hooking up with people in our industry.
As for marketing the business, beyond, you talked about doing some chambers, some networking group, but really pushing the website as much as you could and doing it more than you were able to do that back 8 years ago.
Yeah, so I joined a BNI at the very beginning, Business Networking International. I'm still in it. A lot of people, I know some people that don't choose to stay in it after the first several years, but I'm still a member of a local BNI chapter. Generates quite a bit of business for me. I'm active in 2 different chambers locally. Some people choose to also join, service organizations, Lions clubs, others, where they're continuing that networking. And so, that in addition to my digital marketing firm, are fantastic. And then after you've been around for a while, I hear more now, not just I found you on Google, but I was referred to you by one of your other clients. So your other clients become a huge referral base for you as you grow that client base.
Excellent. Des, your thoughts?
Once again, she hit some of my stuff already. I joined BNI kind of right away. It was great just for understanding how to even sell your product. I mean, you're forced to kind of get up and do a little advertisement or commercial like for a minute, but it's enough for me to think about what can I talk about for 1 minute with this group of that represent all kinds of different industries and whatnot. So it helps you kind of establish your, how you're going to do the, plus you're plugging into a network. And these are people that already have established customer networks as well, and they may or may not need your product. And so it's a very, I left BNI after about maybe 3 years. Really, the time commitment was too much. I had to focus on other things, but I still have residual orders coming in here from those relationships. So they were great. Yeah, the Signworld network, she mentioned that. And for me, commercial realtors, there's a commercial realtors network here in this area that meets quarterly. I sponsor it. It allows me to get up and talk to the group once a year. There's maybe 50 commercial realtors from the area, and they've got all kinds of projects going on, and they're all commiserating, and it's nice to be part of that mix. And I picked up a lot of different projects, and I met a lot of players in the market through that network. Most of our business is still, when we look at it, it comes in still through our web marketing effort. And we had a customer in 2016 from web marketing. You still have them in 2024, and they're doing probably even more. So those are just residual customers. So that's the way to go for me.
Steve, anything to add, or they covered it?
Well, we started and still do almost 99% of our business through the internet. We added through, I would say, luck, our national customers. What I found in working with national customers, though, is if you do a good job with them, they become what I would loosely call a self-licking lollipop. They keep sending the business to you. And so long as you keep performing, they keep sending you the business. But the dividend to that kind of relationship is that guys at that level know other guys and other companies, and they talk and they refer you to other national companies, and that's kind of starting to pay those dividends for us now. So we're now at 3 national customers, and hopefully we're going to grow beyond that even. So that's kind of how we've gone to market. So we just take advantage of our opportunities, and the internet is still, shoveling a lot of stuff our way. Like Des was mentioning, we're also starting to limit, dollars and cents wise, so we don't end up taking, real low dollar items off the internet anymore. So we're being selective a bit in what we do. And we may do something like a catalog order site or something like that to take care of the low dollar value kind of things, where we can just, order it, box it, ship it kind of thing.
Very good. Joe Glover, I know you're traveling. You came in late. What question do you have, or tell us where you're from and what question do you have?
Yes. Hey, Jack, can you hear me okay?
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, great. Hey, thanks everybody. Joel from Minneapolis. Thanks everybody. Just question for, how long did it take each one of you to really get up to speed saying, hey, my business is viable? Helen, I think you mentioned you did some paid SEO, and Steve, you mentioned like organic marketing from a website perspective. Like, at what point did you feel like, hey, you know what, we're really rolling as a business, we're getting inbound orders? What's kind of the timeline that you guys saw as you ramped up your business?
That answers probably a whole bunch of benchmarks to getting the first order, to feeling comfortable, to on and on and on. So know that we're a little short on time here, gang, so try and keep your answers reasonably short. Des, what's your thought?
I realized that I wasn't going to go bankrupt about the beginning of the third year. That's when we just started getting consistent calls and repeat orders, and our sales was 50,000 and 60,000, and then it just started to continue to roll from there. But it took that long. But yeah, I think I said earlier about month 14 we were kind of cash flow break even. That went in and out for the next 10 months or so until it finally got to where it was consistent month after month. Now, I'm a slow starter. I adopted web marketing late and made some other mistakes. So I know everyone on this call is going to do a lot better than that and do it faster now that you've heard from me how to not do it.
Steve?
Well, like I said earlier, we were cash flow positive in about 4 months. And then we bought another company and, it was like kind of starting over again. What, I hate to ask this, what was the core of your question again? Is it?
Feeling comfortable knowing that you're going to make it.
Oh, feeling comfortable. Well, I think that was, probably in early 2022 before I had my transplant. And I had transplant mid-year that year and left the business to the guys to run for me for a few months. And I came back to a little bit of a mess. So really kind of latter part of 23, that's when I started feeling comfortable again.
Helen?
Gosh, I don't know. It was probably good 2 or 3 years in, but I'll tell you one thing that I realized partway through when we first started feeling comfortable, I realized it was actually a little dangerous because I realized we were starting to back away from anything we weren't comfortable with. And so 1 or 2 of my key employees and I talked and said, the first year or two, we had the courage to take on anything and everything, whether or not it scared us or not. And, I just thought we did a phenomenal job of just using that as an opportunity to learn and grow and learn and grow. And it did help us grow our business. And so we actually had to have a little minor come to Jesus meeting with ourselves when we started to feel comfortable and say, I also see because we're starting to feel comfortable, we're getting a little lazy, right? And we can't afford to be lazy, right? So having a little discomfort to kind of prod you on and keep you learning and keep pushing yourself, I think there's a little bit of wisdom and not ever getting to the point where you're a little too comfortable.
I think Roger Carroll has one of the best answers to that. And being an entrepreneur, you've got to learn to become comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
No matter what stage you're at, you're always pushing the lever a little bit more. And so I think you just have to accept that.
Thank you, Des, Steve, and Helen. And really the reason I asked that question was, Steve, you had mentioned the majority of your business is coming in from inbound web business. Like, did you, obviously it's organic marketing. Like, how long did it take, do you feel, to get your website up and running where you thought, hey, you know what, this is a source of inbound leads for me? That really was the context of why I asked that question.
Well, to quickly answer that, when we started the business, we were still, getting organized and hiring people and getting the machines and stuff operational so that we could open the doors. And in the process of doing that, we also were working with the internet company to get our website up and get that operational. And we kind of, designed it so that everything came together at the same time.
We're at the top of the hour here, so we're going to have to let our owners get going back to business. But I want to take another minute if I can. A big part of this process is not only talking to other owners, but coming to a discovery day. We have one coming up next week, Friday. That'll be a virtual day, kind of what we had to do during COVID, a very effective day, Friday, October 11th. We then have our next live discovery day on Friday, November 8th. Jonathan, you were able to attend our live discovery day last month. So how did coming to a live discovery day help you understand Signworld a little bit more effectively than having virtual meetings and the other things?
Yeah, Jack, that's a great question. I think for me, it really put it in perspective going out and seeing, despite how populated Signworld is in a lot of different regions of the United States, that just because there are a lot of sign companies doesn't mean that they all master that specific item that they grow their business in, right? So there's a lot of opportunities to really stand out and really grow your business in many different ways. Some people install their own signs. They have bucket trucks, and they really work. What was really appealing to me is to see a network of people that were so genuine and so willing to help one another, with no franchise or no really organizational fees. Like, these are all just people going to do business and know that there's plenty of opportunity out there for everyone. And just really do a really good job of wanting to be there and help other people succeed. So I was really impressed by that aspect.
Appreciate it. And Helen, Jonathan's in Austin. He'd love to come and see your operation.
Yeah, just look us up, Jonathan. Saber Sign Solutions.
Perfect, Helen. Yeah, I'll be sending you an email here shortly.
Perfect.
So thank you all for joining, for Des, for Steve, for Helen. Thank you so much for participating, sharing your thoughts and your experiences and your wisdom. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.